All right, good evening, everyone. We're going to call the school committee meeting to order at 6 o'clock p.m. on Monday, August 5th. Our next meeting will take place tomorrow night, that was just a joke. That's a joke. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so this is a special meeting of the Malden School Committee, and what we're going to first do, obviously, is pledge allegiance to our flag. We'll have a moment of silence for our veterans. And then we will get into tonight's agenda, which includes a roll call to ensure that we have a quorum to meet this evening. And then we're going to take up the installation of digital mural by Mr. Frank Steller on Malden Public School premises. And then finally, we do have an item that we want you to hear about that, if worthy, could be taken up under suspension of rules. And what that item is we have been asked by another teacher to admit their child to the Malden Public Schools. So let's first get through why we're here this evening according to the agenda, and then we'll go from there. All right, so if there's no objections, please rise and salute our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So please remain standing for a moment of silence in honor of all those who have fought for our country and continue to do so today. Thank you. We're now going to call the roll. Our clerk couldn't be here this evening due to a family matter, so I will call the roll in her stead. Ms. Beardsley? Ms. Bordenaro? Mr. Drummy? Mr. Froyo? Mr. Iavino? Ms. Leon? Mr. McCarthy, Ms. Spatafora, Superintendent O'Terry, here, and myself as Chair, Mayor Christensen. So we have a quorum sufficient to meet this evening. Now we'll get into tonight's agenda. So once again, this is the proposed installation of a digital mural by Mr. Frank Steller on Malden Public School premises. So just to give you some background on why we're here tonight, I think we all know Malden Arts and what they have meant to our city over the years, and so they originally were going to have this mural alongside Valley Forum, the hockey rink over on Holden Street. That ended up falling through. So they came back with the idea of having it on the backside of Malden High School along Easton Avenue. And so one of the things was when we discussed it, everything is time sensitive. They would have already been behind if it were to remain on the hockey rink. So hearing that and knowing what they've done for us throughout the years, I thought it important to try to meet up as soon as we could to hear their proposal and potentially act on it. So we have Candace Julian here as well as Naomi Khan. Naomi Brave was going to be here, but she's away. So, but they're going to do the speaking. So I'm going to bring them up, and they're going to make a brief presentation and then take your questions. And before I do, I just want to make sure that you know that, the school committee deserves, a lot of credit here for coming together. As I always tell you, some days I'm going to do a tell-all book because getting people together over the summer is very, very difficult. But I think once they heard that it was Malden Arts and what it is you were trying to do, they wanted to be here as quickly as I could be. So hats off to them. Anthony Rodriguez, our IT director who just helped, put this together for us. I notified him, I think, Friday afternoon, and he agreed to be here Monday night. And then, of course, Malden Access Television. Normally, it's September through June, but they, too, know what Malden Arts means to us, so they wanted to be here as well. So if there's no further questions, let's bring up Candace Julian.
Thank you, and thank you very much for all coming in. I promise, as I promised to some of you, we'll be very brief.
All right.
So I don't know if you're aware of the Malden Arts Art Line, so I just wanted to give you a context so that you understand where this fits into a bigger context. So Malden Arts is a group of Malden residents. We've been doing switch boxes, we've been doing Malden Arts, window arts, but the art line is sort of this big deal that we've just started to have an art gallery along the bike trail. It was sort of inspired by all sorts of different things, but I'm going to move along. So what we have is phase one. We actually were able to raise over $100,000 from local contributions, a matching grant from Mass Development. Senator Jason Lewis put some money in the budget for us, and we have CPC funds. And those funds are all for these two big ideas. We have hubs that we're going to put, 3 different hubs in the city that are going to be sort of a gathering place that are very sort of art-centered. And there are 5 murals that we're proposing to put. So that's where that $100,000 is going. The hub components, the idea of the hub components is that there are bike racks, there are benches, and there are art installations. So the first thing we were able to find is the bike rack is actually going to be 02148. So we're going to have two different bike racks, one at Ferry Street and one at Linden, that are our zip code, which we thought was a very cool bike rack. The benches that we're using, we found an artist who uses takes old propane tanks and creates benches from those. So we decided to have a theme of those benches because we thought they were so cool and artistic. So here's the first one. This one will be going into Ferry Street, and this one he's redesigned for us so it's more of a bench, and that's going to be over in Linden Square. So we've completed the Canal Street. Can you all hear me so I don't have to go back and forth? Great. We completed the Canal Street hub, and this is what it looks like. I hope, if you haven't seen it, I hope you go and look at it. It's right across from the Cambridge Health Alliance. And this is our idea of what a hub would be. It has some sculpture, it has a bench, it's a place where people can hang out, and it has art involved in it. One of the things that's important to us is that the artists get involved. So this is actually the designer of those benches, Colin Selleck, with his mom. He grew up in Newton, but he lives in California now. The two remaining hubs are going to be at Ferry Street, as I said, and at Linden Square. But the 5 murals are what, we're talking about one of those today, but 2 have been completed. I hope you all have seen the Ed Emberley mural, which is on Exchange Street, where we used high school students. We used all 3 high schools, but I have to confess it was primarily Malden High students that did the art for this. Our designer for this mural is right here, Naomi Kahn. She took Ed Emberley's images and created this mural. And that's the finished mural that's on Exchange Street. You'll see some fencing up there right now because there's some awesome, awesome children play equipment that's going to go in there that was funded by the CPC, and they're just waiting to put it all together. And as I said, we like the artists involved. This is Ed Emberley when we had the opening at his mural. The second completed mural is this kind of interesting design that we had to have murals along the fence. So we're calling it the River of Ties. This one represents the herring run that's in the river that's underneath that trail. And I'll show you, we have another one coming up on that. The other one that's going to be over at Ferry Street is going to be a train. So the idea of these murals, Malden Clay Larson designed these, is he wanted, as you walk by, to get a sense of the motion of the train. This week, we're going to start on a mural for About Spirit in the Sky by Norm Greenbaum. One of the ideas in our phase 1 of this was to have Malden-born artists. Norm Greenbaum was born here. Spirit of the Sky has become a huge, huge, huge success. If you haven't heard it, you will by the time the days are over. Not today. Where we're putting that is on the back of 110 Pleasant Street. The artist is from Texas. He's on his way here actually as we speak. And this is what the mural's going to be like for Spirit in the Sky. And as a result of Malden High students and our Mayor Christensen, you'll see down there, what are they called? A QR. We're going to have QR codes on the mural that will give you an opportunity to both see a video of the muralist talking about the mural, and he's already decided to do a time lapse, so he's going to have a little time lapse of it. And Norm Greenbaum has already agreed he wants to come back for this, and he's going to come back and we'll have both his song and a video of him on this. So that gets to the point of why you're here tonight. As Mayor Christensen said, we had originally planned to have this on the hockey rink, and that fell through all of a sudden, and we've got a dilemma because we've got to use up this money soon. So that's part of what the pressure is. suddenly it occurred to us that this wall is perfect. It's across from the bike trail, and so our notion, well, it's Frank Stella, it's not a digital, it's actually going to be a real mural. Hopefully most of you know who Frank Stella is. He's a very, very world-famous artist. The walkability signs that are all over Malden are his design, and Malden won an award for that. He also has given work to the library, and we hope that he will come for this opening of this mural. So he designed this mural just for us to use, and Naomi's going to sort of give you, let me hand that out.
So it is digitally printed, it's not, but it's digitally printed on boards that are the same as the boards that we used for the Emberley mural. It's 1/8 thick composite mural, or metal, and we'll have framework behind it so that it's a little higher than the wall, because the wall's only 5.
Naomi, can you just speak close to the mic? Because they're recording it tonight.
Oh, yeah. So the mural will go above the wall by 3 feet. The wall is about 5 feet tall, so we'll have it go up another 3 feet. And in these booklets I gave you, there's a before and after, and it definitely improves the look of the back of the high school, I think. It'll add some color and be really beautiful, and it's a great, I think it's a great way to show Frank Stella's work, who is one of the more important modern artists of our time. We're really lucky to have him from Malden. We have brackets that will be built. The framework will be made out of 1-inch steel tubing, and there are brackets that support it from the back on top of the wall, which is also what we did on Ed Emberley's mural, so you can go look at how that's done, and it makes it very sturdy. And there will also be an anti-graffiti laminate over this. On some of those, I remembered to scribble that as I was driving here.
All right.
Do you have any questions?
Yeah, let's, well, before we take questions, can you just tell the committee about the importance of the timeline? If we were to act tonight, what does that mean for Malden Arts and the city?
That means that we would be able to get into production and get it all up before it gets really cold out.
Okay.
And also, I think we have about a month and a half
Yeah,
to
we
use up the money.
have to use up the money.
Can you just speak in the mic?
Yes, sorry.
Because they're recording tonight.
Oh, so we need to use the money by November. So that's part of what was the rush here to get you all here on a lovely summer evening.
All right, thank you. There you have it, everyone. So let's take some questions. Ms. Bordenaro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for being here. I have some questions. Being the chair of the Policy and Subcommittee, I just am concerned that it should go through the proper channels. But one of the questions I do have is, when is the deadline to use the $100,000?
We have to use it by the end of this year, like by November, or early December. So that's part of our dilemma of why we started looking for a new place to put this when everything fell through all of a sudden.
So if we approved this, when would you start?
We would start as soon as possible.
Yeah, as soon as,
As
Like
soon as-
tomorrow?
Yeah. We were ready to start it. We thought we were going to be installing this in the month of July.
How come that wasn't the case?
The hockey rink just was not very responsive.
Understood.
And we finally gave
Understood,
up.
that's
Yeah.
fine, that's fair. Another question that I do have, so there was 2 hubs to be completed in 2020? Is
Yes.
what I think I got from one of your slides. How would that be related to the funds that are supposed to be used by November if those 2 hubs won't be completed till 2020?
So one of the challenges, the hubs, we can't complete the hubs till 2020 because Brown, Richardson, and Rowe was contracted by the Commonwealth to redo the entire trail. And as a result, there are good and bad parts to that. The good part is they took over all of the vegetation issues that we were going to do. The bad part is we can't do the installation. So what we've had to do is we've purchased all of the sculptures and the benches that go there, and they have to wait until Brownwood, so that's why it says 2020. Does that help make sense?
Yeah, so you're here,
So
you're here particularly for MHS?
Yes.
Is that right?
We're just here, yeah, we're just here. So the murals and the hubs are separate?
Okay, and all right,
So
that makes sense.
the mural, why we like this location for the mural is it's right opposite a hub. So it feels connected in some way.
Okay, so you can, so it's fine, so the 100,000 you have to use by November, are you taking a portion of that over into the two hubs for 2020?
No,
How are you gonna?
we're spending it now, and now we have to
Okay.
find storage for the things. So we're completing everything, but then we have to find storage
Understood.
for it until Brown, Richardson, and Rowe finishes their part of the
Understood.
trail.
I love it, I like it. So I don't want, like, my questions to think that, I wouldn't want to see this in our city. One of the things that I'm just kind of questioning regarding the design of Malden High School is that I was kind of thinking that it was going to be more symbolic, like maybe like Nedlam or something, Malden, like proud in what we stand for. I don't know how they came up with this design, but I was thinking, I don't know, it just, to me, this isn't my own personal opinion, it doesn't shout Malden. So I guess wanted a little background on how you come up with those designs for Malden.
Well, we didn't come up with it.
Or
It
the
was-
designer.
So Frank Stella, who's a world-famous artist, agreed when we said to him, would you have any interest in doing a mural? He said, sure, and he created this mural for us. So it wasn't based on it was based on him.
Yep,
So,
that makes sense. I like it. I think it's very colorful, and it's definitely pleasant to look at. I don't know, when I think of Malden High School, and I think of Malden, I don't think that's just what I would think of. I don't know if maybe he'd be willing to, or someone could sit with him and maybe talk about Malden focused and things that we
no.
stand for.
I think it's enough that we got a world-famous artist whose work is worth lots and lots of money
yeah, no,
to
I'm not-
even give this. So
I will not take that-
I don't
I won't
think,
take that away.
we're not willing to go back and ask him to redo it and have it be more Malden focused. So I understand what you're saying, but I think this is an amazing gift.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know his work is great. I think it's amazing that we have someone. I was just.
No,
I'm
it's a
just
fair
trying to,
question. No, it's a fair question.
Relate a mural to Malden, that's all, because you're putting it on a Malden, you're putting it on a
Right,
school.
right.
So I just,
But I feel it's a very educational.
You just speak in the mic. Yeah.
I feel it's a very educational piece of art. It's a part of Malden history. It's sophisticated. It can show that teenagers are not just capable of drawing lions or their mascots, that this is, a great learning experience for them to have, a world-famous artist on their school, which it's sort of,
Sure.
on the outside. It's on the wall that leads up to the school. It isn't on the school itself.
sure. Good.
Is that it for now? Yeah, okay.
Thank
So
you.
we're going to go to Ms. Beardsley, then we'll go to Mr. Iavino, and then Ms. Spatafora.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say, minor comments. I fully support it, and I've been so appreciative of all the things you've done. And I was thinking, when you just said that, that's the back of Malden High, and it really is the bike path. And so it's pointing to the bike path, and what better than having someone who, I just think it's phenomenal, and I'm in full support of it.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Beardsley. Mr. Iavino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to reiterate, there is a zero impact on our budget, correct? No cost to us.
Right, correct.
Thank you.
Ms. Spatafora.
Thank you. Mr. Iavino, I think, touched upon a question I was going to have on just future down the road upkeep to it, because it is going to be on essentially city property, and I want to make sure that cost doesn't come back to us if there is any upkeep down the road. I know you said there's an anti-graffiti covering, which is fantastic. That's going to, you know, hopefully the students in Malden aren't doing stuff like that, but.
But you know, they've been good so far. That we do have a contract for 110 Pleasant, and we'll use the same contract for the school that we used for 110 Pleasant, which does address how are we going to deal with the maintenance.
Okay. Also, I'm looking at the actual mural here, the backside that is now going to be visible from these windows of the school. That's just going to basically be galvanized steel and the support structure that we'll be looking at? I mean.
So the support structure will be painted black, I guess, or
Okay.
we could paint it another color if you like, and we could consider painting the backs of the boards that peek up. They'd be white normally, but maybe we could, I hadn't thought of that, so
Just a
maybe we could
thought,
do
seeing
something
that
with
it's
it.
going to be looked at from two sides essentially, to maybe, I don't want to get into your budget any more than you're spending, but if it was a possibility to make it also, excuse me, visually appeasing to the people on the backside, that would be.
We could make it blue or something, or, you know, blue and yellow or something
Yeah.
like that, so that it would,
There you go.
Great.
yeah.
It could get to the Malden sense, so the backside.
The
could
backsides
be
of the boards could be
and
blue
gold.
and the frame could be gold or something like that. That would be easy enough.
And then my last question, because I don't want to keep you anymore, are we going to be using Malden High School students in any aspect of this mural as well? Incorporating them into any part of this that?
Well, the company I work for, because I'm a sign maker and work for a sign company, we were gonna digitally print all this. And I guess if there's some Malden High School students that are interested in carpentry, we can definitely get a day of installing or something like that.
Okay. Just a thought, if we could
Yeah.
incorporate that. It's, you know, still part of their school, and they sure would take pride in, you know, taking on that, so.
Definitely.
I think it's beautiful. Thank you for bringing this to us, and I hope that, I think the location is well across from the bike path. And if I look at the mural correctly, it does look like there's like some sort of, it looks like, honestly, like bike wheels to me. And so, just, you know, my own perception, but thank you very much. I don't
Oh, and
wanna-
it's actually sort of scholastic because those things that you think are bike wheels are from his Protractor series.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Ms. Spatafor. Ms. Leon.
Thank you. I'm also on the Policy and Procedures Subcommittee with Ms. Bordenaro, and have we checked with Public Facilities or DPW, because I assume there will be some drilling and things like that to this wall, so this has all been cleared through them, or are we starting here?
No, it's clear through them.
Okay.
Anything else, Ms. Leon? Okay, Ms. Bordenaro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to make sure that the policy that we wrote up, that it's not conflicted, what we're doing here today, which I fully support this. The questions that I had, I know could be potential questions for, you know, the residents of Malden, so I just want you to keep that in mind. I just want to make sure that the policy that we wrote up isn't conflicting what we do, because I just. Yeah. Well, I know it's not a dedication, but I know that this certain request had to go through policy, so I just want to make sure that we're not doing anything that doesn't go against what we just did.
Right. Okay. Anybody else? Mr. Froyo?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to say I'm for this project. Anytime we can get a world-famous artist to come and do something in Malden, I think we should accept it and be happy.
All right, Mr. Iavino.
Make a motion to move the question.
All right, let's just make sure that we have our school superintendent chime in, because he's been working on this as well behind the scenes. So your thoughts on this, superintendent?
Sure. I also just had a question for our presenters too. Will there be any sort of citation on the mural that'll say that this is Frank Steller? You know, I think what we want to do is make sure that people know that he is one of the transcendent, preeminent modern artists of our time. that this isn't just some random artwork that's there. This is, so those are the actual citations there? Okay,
Yes, they're.
Perfect.
They're both sides of the wall, say Frank Stella over here, and then at the other end, next to the squares, because that's a different side of the wall, it'll say Frank Stella. And then here, there will be a whole blurb about what this is about and Frank Stella's biography.
that he's from Malden, so
That he's
that
from
people
Malden.
can make that connection, because I think
Oh,
it's, I think it's more than noteworthy that we have one of the preeminent and transcendent artists of the last century as a Malden, resident, someone who grew up here in Malden. I think it's going to really improve what has been on Easton Avenue for almost 40 years, which is just gray concrete. And I think it's going to tie in the other hub across the street. I think it's beautiful. I love the fact that the protractor series of his work is facing the bike path, so I think there's some symbolism there. And I think you're going to get a tremendous amount of compliments of people that ride by there, and possibly even easing tensions at that light at rush hour. I think people can look and say, there's something good to feel about there. So I'm all in favor of that, and if there's any way we can assist you with the public schools, whether it be with maybe some of our students helping with the installation or being some sort of assistance to our company with that, I think we'd be more than happy to. I think that this is yet another endorsement of Malden's schools and their connection and support of the arts, which is really a community endeavor. So I am completely in favor of it and look forward to seeing this construction.
All right, thank you. So we have a motion by Mr. Iavino. It's been seconded by Ms. Beardsley. So now it's properly before us. Is there any further discussion? Everybody clear on what's being proposed here this evening? All right. Ms. Beardsley. To approve. Ms. Bordenaro. Mr. Drummy. Mr. Froyo. Mr. Iavino. Ms. Leon. Mr. McCarthy. Ms. Spatafora. Mayor Christensen, yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 0. Full steam, okay?
Great. So it also occurs to me, we could, a way students could get involved is we'll put a QR code on this too. And we could figure out ways, so.
Yeah, if you could, maybe, that's a great idea. Let's connect with them about that.
Yeah.
Because they're the one that introduced us to it last
And
year.
us to you.
Yeah.
Plus, we have, I think Frank Stella might come for an unveiling, so maybe
Yes.
when we do the QR code, the students could video him.
Interviewing, yeah.
With our new TV studio there, I think that'd be perfect. He
Oh,
can
yeah,
come up, and certainly we'd be looking at any sort of reception. We could be a host or the library, someplace local.
We could also get you in on the Spirit of the Sky one too.
Oh, that one, absolutely. That'd
All
be
right,
perfect.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Keep us posted. All right, the next order of business, Superintendent O'Teary, can you just enlighten the committee about this request you received?
Sure, we received a request, actually, just after the school year ended, I believe, from Ashley Bratza. She's a 6th grade math teacher at the Forestdale School. She's been very involved with some of the activities and clubs there. She lives in the South Shore. Her daughter will be starting kindergarten. She wants to remain active in some of the activities in the school, such as the variety show and a couple other endeavors, and would like her daughter to attend the Forestdale, which would enable her to continue to do those things that she feels enrich the lives of our students. And my initial response to her was, at the time when the committee was taking this under advisement, now that I know that the committee is looking at developing a policy, and we've already deliberated on other faculty members, I wanted to bring this to the committee since school will be starting in a couple weeks.
Okay, so let's hear what the school committee has to say about that. So if it were something worthy of our consideration, we're going to have to suspend docket rules. If we suspend docket rules, then we would have to take a vote on admitting the child. Mr. Iavino.
You know, we as a committee set policy, and one of the policies is that if an item is not on the agenda, it cannot be taken up at a meeting.
Sure.
I realize it's time sensitive. I realize parents need to make provisions for childcare. I will not vote to suspend docket rules.
Okay, well, we're just going to come back then in a week or two, everybody. So if that's the call of the committee, we can do that. I just assume while we're here, we know the issue. We just did one. It's at the Forest Hill, which has the support of their administration. I believe it has the support of the superintendent. So yeah, we could definitely go back and just set an agenda. We'll come back again in a couple days or next week, and we'll just, you know, we can then come together and we can refer it to committee or whatever you want to do. It's up to the group. Ms. Beardsley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Forestdale is the lowest enrollment of all the schools, correct?
Yes.
And as an educator, I know that if I had my kids at my school, I could stay later and I could do more things and be more involved in the school, so I'm in support of it.
All right, anybody else? Ms. Bordenaro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't like the idea of suspending docket rules with something that is not on an agenda. I don't, because I think that's just like, could just set a you know, a bad example going forward, that we could just suspend rules whenever we want. I just don't like it. Could I come back here in a week or two? Yeah. I mean, that's my job. My job is to do what needs to be done. And I don't know, I don't think that we received an email. Have we received, the committee has received an email regarding this? Not that there has to be one, but this is the first time I'm hearing about it.
Okay, how was this communicated to you, Superintendent?
She had sent an email in June, and at the time, the committee was examining the policy, and she sent me a follow-up this weekend stating that she was still interested and wanted to know what the next steps would be.
Well, let me jump on Ms. Bordenaro's question. June, and we're just being alerted now?
Right, she was just exploring the option.
But when did she formally say, I want in?
This weekend, she wanted to know what the status was as the next steps.
Now, are there others out there in the similar situation that you know of?
Not that I'm aware of, except for one that I think I had mentioned at the subcommittee of a potential pending move of someone who is currently in Malden but may be moving out. But I don't know the status of that.
All right. Is that it, Ms. Bordenaro? I'm sorry.
No, you're totally fine. Thank you. So she initially, I feel like I'm really loud. So she initially contacted us in June.
After
but was
the,
just exploring?
after the, I'm sorry, she contacted after we had concluded the school committee meetings for the year.
Okay.
Okay.
And the committee at that point was developing a policy, and there was already one that was a formal request that had come in April or May that we had taken up most recently. That's correct.
Yeah, those were different circumstances. I'm not sure on this just because our school attorney is currently drafting a policy like right now in place that we're taking up at the very first school committee meeting, which is in less than a month, right? Maybe a month.
I think it's September 9th it's scheduled.
I'd like to just see what he has in place. I think, personally, I speak for myself, just because, I mean, we've been doing a ton of work on this, and I'd just like to see what Attorney Greenspan has in place.
Just from the chair, I would have agreed with you if we just didn't take action on someone who was in the same position. I mean, if we had tabled her waiting for this policy in September, I would say you're absolutely right, but we just came together and said, let's do this while we work on the policy. So, I think this teacher's in the same situation. Again, I was just trying to be efficient here. I know the argument about rules and the suspension of the docket, but that's why we are who we are. If we get it wrong, the people will hold us to account. But that's why the rule is there, to suspend docket rules when you have this kind of odd situation where you've been notified, you're together, and you can act. So we don't have to. I mean, again, we could have another meeting next week where it's on the agenda, and then potentially it could be referred to committee, and then the committee meets, and then we come back again. So we could definitely do that. But I just thought it made sense based on our recent actions to take this up while we were together.
And Mr. Chair, I definitely don't disagree with you. I mean, I take every request of these very seriously because we want to make sure that we're keeping families intact, consistency, making sure there's no anxiety of the child. So I very much take this very seriously and in support of keeping the family dynamics consistent with what we've done in the past. It's just, it's not on the agenda, and I feel as though that's where we kind of dropped the ball a little bit.
Okay. All right, let's see who else. Who hasn't spoken? Mr. Froyo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion that we suspend rules. We're here tonight, and rather than come back in a week or two, we're here. Why don't we just make a decision tonight?
All right, so you put that in the form of a motion, Mr. Froyo?
Right.
Motion to suspend docket rules. Is there a second? So it's seconded by Ms. Beardsley. Let's now take any last-minute questions before we see whether or not that is a viable option. Ms. Spatafora.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Oh, jeez, it's loud. I understand that we just did this for another teacher, but we also had the time as a subcommittee to review the case, to discuss, to make a proper decision and not be put on the spot at a moment's notice where we have been tonight. So I am not comfortable on taking a vote tonight without knowing more background. When this initial request came in, I think it's our proper due diligence to make the decisions based on what's put before us. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Spatafora. Mr. Iavino.
I would say that my position is as it was. We have a policy committee, we make a policy. If we're not going to stick to it, we should not have a policy committee. So I'm not in favor of suspending docket rules.
All right, very good. Ms. Beardsley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just point of clarification, when did she ask?
Superintendent O'Terry.
Not sure the exact date. It was after the last school committee meeting in June, so it was not a formal. I said that I would look into it. And then this past weekend, I think wants to know if that's still a possibility.
So then why wasn't she put in with the other woman? Because we came back together to vote on that specific woman.
I don't know. I think I probably overlooked it because the other one came in as a formal request during the school committee season. This had come in after we had adjourned for the summer, after the subcommittee had met. So I think it was kind of got a confluence of a couple items that had come together, and I hadn't heard anything after that, so there was a reminder this weekend.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure it wasn't on us.
No, I mean, if anything, it was just because of the timing of it.
Yep,
after the committee had met, I think in May, on the first, I think it was end of May. It was before the last school committee meeting. So this had come in after the committee had adjourned for the summer. And, I think that's some of the things that the committee's looking at is going forward is there should be a window of opportunity to apply. But I think that, what we have heard also that we don't have a policy. So I think that in the absence of that, there's not that much discretion, perhaps.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Beardsley. Ms. Leon.
So I have been aware of this request, but it sounds to me like Ms. Bratsis perceived her initial email to you as a request. So I understand the frustration here. I mean, we should have brought it up with the last one.
Correct, and I believe, as I said, I think because of the timing, we were in the process of deliberating with the one, it should have been brought up, I agree.
But
And
now it looks-
that would fall on me.
It looks like now, because we've made public the fact that we're trying to set some sort of policy in place, now it looks like people are trying to scurry in before that policy hits in September. So what are we're going to meet back here, and that's what it looks like to the public. We're going to allow anyone that comes in before September, before that policy hits.
Sue? Did you get that sense that?
I'm not getting that sense. I think that because of I agree, there's a timing issue. And I think that what we had discussed in the subcommittee going forward was that there would be a delineation of a deadline. I think that people were looking at that like sometime before April going forward, so that you know when you're making plans for your child's educational future, you would know that well in advance. And since this had come in after we had adjourned, I think it had been something that I hadn't put forward with the other one because they were two different requests at two different times. Perhaps that should have been.
I mean, we're in crunch time now. We have Malden residents scurrying to change schools and get placement before September, and now another teacher. So I think we have to look into the numbers a little bit further before we vote.
Well, good question. Would this impact the Forestdale School?
I don't know specifically of the kindergarten enrollment there. I don't know. I'd have to talk with the Parent Information Center. And I think that's something that we would want to look at going forward with any policy we make. How is it on a space available? If there's room. I mean, I think those are things that need to be spelled out going forward. That's correct.
Well, so based on your response, we shouldn't take action then?
Well, I think that the committee will have to examine the same plate of facts going forward.
I see.
And whether the committee wants to hear it and refer it to subcommittee or not, I think that's the committee's call.
But if we were to approve it, she'll be attending kindergarten at the Forestdale School in some form or manner.
I think if there's room, I mean, I think that would have to be, looked at. I think that's something that we don't have a policy on, is if a staff person and we agree that we want to continue this, are there restrictions on it? Are there caps as
No,
to how many
Superintendent, what-
district-wide, or if there's a
Yep.
cap in the building themselves that they request?
I guess what I'm asking is, if we were to act tonight and the Forestdale School is at the max, the student would end up going to a different school.
Correct, and I think that's something that we want to probably put in, that I think that you, as a committee, my recommendation would be that it would not be necessarily school-specific, but district-specific.
Right, but that aside, because that's still being worked on, for this particular case, if this were voted on this evening, you go back to the Forestdale School, they've reached the cap, the student will be going to a different school. You're not just going to
Correct.
add the student there.
That's correct.
Because of convenience.
We
Okay.
would have to, correct.
All right. All right, other questions?
And I
Go
mean,
to
I think
Ms.
that there was, I know that, if I might, just, I think that there was some discussion in the subcommittee about how that priority goes. Is there an assignment before? And those are things I think that the committee needs to digest and process.
Let's go to Ms. Beardsley, then Mr. Iavino, then Ms. Bordenaro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know that I've talked to, well, our schools are by I mean, we have a priority, right? It's by, I think, ed plan, followed by sibling, followed by distance, correct? Like, so it's not school choice anymore. It's not like, I don't think it's from what I've heard from the Forestdales, they're very close in kindergarten and first in their numbers. So it's probably a 1 or 2 left situation.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Iavino?
I'd like to move the question, please, on suspension of docket rules.
All right, very good. You hold for one more from Ms. Bordenauer?
I think I'm actually good.
Okay.
Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right, everybody, so there you go. There's the item, there's the discussion. Now we just have to determine whether or not we're interested in suspending docket rules to entertain the requests to have a teacher's child from the Forestdale School attend the school come September. So the only question right now, we're not into the main issue, is whether or not we just want to simply suspend docket rules. So a yes vote would be to do that, a no vote would be not to do that. So let's go through the roll. Ms. Beardsley? Yes. Ms. Bordenauer? No. Mr. Drummy, Mr. Froyo? Yes. Mr. Iavino? No. Ms. Leon? Mr. McCarthy, Ms. Spatafor? No. Mayor Christensen, yes. 2, 3, 4. Okay, I believe you need 2/3 of the members present to suspend docket rules, which, according to my math, we're coming up short by 1. So the motion to suspend docket rules fails. Notify the teacher that she will remain on hold until the committee can come back once again, which, why don't we figure that out right now while we're all here. So next Monday, August 12th, 6 o'clock, work for everyone? Ms. Bordenauer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had a quick question. Prior to that meeting, don't you think it may be beneficial if there was a policy subcommittee meeting prior to taking up this request?
No, because if we're going to stick to the rules, it first has to appear on our agenda. So we're going to follow the rules now, which is we'll come together next Monday, and then we can end up taking it up that night, or we could refer it to subcommittee.
Understood.
So August 12th, 6 o'clock, here?
I can't do that either.
Okay, what date works for everyone? I guess I wasn't kidding. Maybe we should do tomorrow night, 6. I'm just kidding. That was a joke. When can you, generally speaking? Thursday? Yep. No. 6 o'clock Thursday? 6th. No, strike that. It's the 8th. What say you? All right. Ms. Beardsley, Mr. Iavino? You, Ms. Leon? Okay, so we'd have a quorum. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No. 1, 2, no. 3, 4, Ms. Leon. It's 5. So we'd have a quorum. Now, we'll just have to determine that evening whether or not it's sent to policy subcommittee, which if it is, then there'd be a subcommittee meeting, and then we come back for a full meeting, or we just take the matter up on the floor. So that's where we are. All right? Everybody on the same page? So, Mr. O'Terry, you'll post the agenda for Thursday at 6 here at the Senior Center with this one item.
Yes, in the absence of Ms. Dory. I won't be here, but yes.
Whichever, we'll work it out. Just tomorrow morning, first thing should be to post a meeting with this one item on it. All right? All right, so if there's no other questions, we'll now entertain a motion to adjourn. Adjourned by Mr. Iavino, seconded by Ms. Bordenauer. All those in favor say aye. Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. School committee is adjourned.